Okay, we are up. Gotcha. Okay, just gonna wait for everybody to get in. Make sure all of our students today are able to join. All right. Looks like we have just about everybody in. Hey, Matthew. Welcome. Okay. For our fourth meeting in New World Union history, we have the Pylon Incursions that lasted from about 1935 to the 1960s. And a lot of the research today we got, of course, from the institution of Verona, which is the leading institute for Pylon research, if any of you are interested. So the temperate pylon was the first pylon that appeared, of course, and it was in Minnesota, in the temperate region of Minnesota, and that area does not receive many earthquakes, so when it suddenly received a 7.8, people were not very happy and very surprised. So it took out quite a bit of homes, quite a bit of cities.
Minnesota hit by one of the NWU's hardest quakes. The event leaving families without homes and buildings gone.
Near the Minnesota River and pretty close to the city of Minneapolis. And numbers that have only been seen in the San Francisco quakes of like 1906 was a 7.8. And 3 hours after the quake subsided, a noise that would deafen or heavily damage the hearing of systems within a 10-mile radius were heard, affecting 500,000 people. And this day marked the birth of the Elvis. And the Elvis event that I was just speaking about, here we actually have a mostly restored picture, and I've labeled some of the images for you guys so you can get a better view. I've also shared these slides with everybody in class if you want to go back and look over them. So on the 4th of July, Elvis was going to have a concert at the Elvis Pylon, and it became like a gathering zone. It was a big party zone for all the hippies and all the boomers and whatnot. There were the second Elvis began playing, he was assimilated into the Pylon, which is why we all call the Pylon Elvis. And it was to commemorate his maybe death. There's a lot of conspiracies surrounding that, whether he's dead or not, but there's never really a way to know. And it led to one of the most horrific domino effects the NWU has ever.
You could feel the electricity in the air before we even saw the pylon. People danced, drank, kissed strangers. It felt like we were on the edge of something great. Like we were finally learning how to live with it, you know? With the pylon. We called it a miracle back then. A gift. God's work. Then the lights shifted. The pylon started to sing real soft. And the crowd hushed all at once, like something had reached in everybody's throat at once and pressed down. Then he walked out. Elvis. Lord, he looked just like the billboards. Shiny, golden, untouchable. People were sobbing before he even sang a note. He strummed at the first chord and it all bent. That's the only word I got. Bent. The sound went wrong, like a dozen voices singing back to him from inside the pylon. And then he just folded inward. Like the space around him gave up. His body stretched and shimmered and then gone. Not a scream, not a drop of blood. The guitar hit the ground like a snapped wishbone. People tried to leave, but it was like the pylon had breathed in. You couldn't hear anything but the tone anymore, that awful, perfect note. Some people dropped where they stood, others just stared. I remember this boy beside me with an Elvis pin. He smiled like it was the best day of his life, while tears rolled down his cheek. It's called Elvis now. The pylon, I mean. No one really goes near it. You don't bury a god, I guess. You just hope it doesn't remember your name.
So in the aftermath, and I have a picture of the condemned zone here, of course, the quality of all of these pictures, super hard to get pictures of these things because not only are they protected by the government, but your camera gets super bugged up when you try to get in these zones. And that could be either, signal jammers, the pylons, effects, anything. We're not really sure, but we know it happens. Almost immediately after Elvis's assimilation, the temperate pylon erupted in size, and of course we could see there's the central one and all of its surrounding spikes there. Multiple significantly smaller pylons, minor pylons, or of course, like I said, spikes, sprung up in the area within a small radius, and a deafening tone similar to the one heard when the pylon first appeared was played again. And it deafened the entire crowd and just killed some of them on the spot. Around 100,000 were initially killed by the spikes that rose, so bodies were falling seemingly from the sky, but they were actually falling off the spikes, and that actually ended up in quite a few deaths. A bunch of crowd crush. And after the event, 10,000 people of the 1.4 million were alive. And those 10,000 people weren't very happy with what they had gone through, and now there's a lot left. There's like none now, but this slide's a little old, but there were 108 people 2 years after the event, so quite a significant loss of life. After the Elvis event, former pylons appearing in the following states of Pennsylvania, Sundara, Wyoming, and Southern California.
I have here a map of the NWU. Let's walk through the order of the pylon's appearance. First, the temperate pylon appeared on January 8th of 1935. Its appearance was very violent and shook the entirety of the NWU to its core. Quite a few years later, on July 4th, 1959, the Elvis event occurred, resulting in the creation of the other four pylons. Due to mass casualties of NWU patriots, the state was named God's Injustice.
Now here's actually a picture of one of the first parties that I mentioned, right next to the pylon when it was still a little baby. You can see it there, little baby pylon. After the appearance of the first pylon, the government of the New World Union made a number of failed attempts to remove the pylon, and that had a death toll of its own, but I don't know if this one really dives into it because the NWU does not like telling us about their failed attempts. And locals of the area began to congregate at the base of the pylon and hold those big parties I was talking about earlier. This snowballed into the area being one of the most popular spots for large concerts, in turn leading to the Elvis event. Now here, of course, we have the famous Blanche Russell, who painted the pylon. Painting. And the history of the pylons are constantly wrapped up in conspiracy. You know, of course, they're giant meat sticks. So, I mean, the most popular of which being the painting created by the artist Blanche Russell.
Okay, Ms. Russell, thank you for joining us. Let's start with your painting Pylon, released in July of 1934, just 6 months before the first structure appeared in Minnesota. Can you describe how that piece came to be?
I suppose I could try, though I've never been convinced I made it, if I'm being honest. It came to me in a dream, the night before I painted it. Not like a typical dream, not symbols, not abstraction. It was vivid, precise, like someone showed it to me and said, "Remember."
And you did.
I had no choice. I woke up shaking and painted without eating, without speaking, just put it on canvas. Every curve, every vein, every tone, it was already there. I just translated it.
Many have called this a prophecy, that the pylon revealed itself to you before its arrival.
Yes, they've said that. They say I was chosen, as if that's comforting. I think it's a silly word. Chosen by what? And for what? To make warnings people turn into wall art? To walk around carrying the sound of that thing's voice in my spine for the rest of my life?
You don't consider the painting a gift.
A gift implies something wanted. This was an intrusion. A violation, even. It gave me fame, yes. Critics, collectors, endless press. But it also gave me the inability to sleep without music playing, and a kind of knowing that nothing I paint will ever be just a paint again.
But you've embraced the public eye, no?
Only so far as I must. I learned quickly that mystery sells, so I let them believe I'm cryptic and clever. Truth is, I'm scared. The painting unnerves me more now than it did then. I've considered burning it, but I don't think it would die.
You haven't painted anything since?
No. I tried once, last year. Just a bowl of pears. But halfway through, the canvas started shifting under my brush. It was becoming something else. Something with teeth.
And now?
Now I dream again. Not every night, but often enough. I see more. Not just one. 5, each with its own sound. Each taller, closer.
Do you think more are coming?
I don't think. I know.
Right here. And Russell created this small piece exactly a year to the second, I think, is when she said she'd finished it. It was publicly released in July 1934, titled Pylon, which is actually where they got their names. Because, kind of look like that. Many believe this was the pylon revealing itself to Russell as a form of premonition, which skyrocketed her career. The auditory effects of the pylons are actually super interesting to me as a musician. The pylons have been known to sing, which is they just say it's singing, but it's a weird ambient sound that I was able to experience myself, and it's life changing. When they perform this action, it seems to block out all other forms of audio from the listener. It's true, you can't hear anything else but the sound within a 10-mile radius of the pylon, which is why nobody can, exist within a 10-mile radius of those pylons. They really crack down on the restrictions. But as a educator, a lot of the educators were allowed to experience the sounds and kind of see the pylon. So that was a really cool opportunity I had. There are countless recordings of the singing, and each event differs in the sound of the singing slightly. Many describe the listening experience as angelic and feel a special high when hearing. This is one of the many factors as to why the pylons were initially a pretty popular meeting zone. So people would throw these huge parties and occasionally get super high off of the crazy sound they were hearing, which is a super interesting snowball effect. It's that it's funny. A bunch of people go party, get high off a sound, and then it starts getting so popular that Elvis shows up and gets eaten by these things. That's pretty funny. Anyways, love the history of the pylons. Super interesting stuff. And next lesson, which I'm going to pull up right about now,